Hello everybody, and welcome back to Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper. I'm Perrin Lovett, and it is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. Hello to everybody at fp.com, the Freedom Prepper community, and everybody listening via Spotify, Anchor, or wherever else the podcast is found, and all of our friends at YouTube. Today's story is kind of all over the place. It's more of a wrap up while we wait on the great story of this month. And what goes around comes around, and a lot of people in the know, in and out of the United States, are kind of speculating that what we've been seeing the past year looks a whole lot like a color revolution. And I think before we started doing the videos, I put up a link at FP about the CIA had a policy manual about how to conduct these operations in foreign countries, causing civil disturbances and, subtly turning political parties against each other, things like that, to affect the outcomes of elections, to rebuild governments, to destabilize or stabilize, to just interfere in foreign affairs overseas. And basically you name a country and you've found a target for for our government the past 70 years or so. It kind of looks a whole lot like what's been going on here, like somebody took that manual and applied it to the United States. Paul Craig Roberts just flat out says this is our color revolution. I've got a link to his website. He wrote this a couple days ago. He said, he said a couple of things. Take a look at that. What really struck me was something from RT by Nebojša Malik, a Serbian-American writer. He said, a crowd of protesters stormed Congress protesting a presidential election they claimed had been fraudulent. When this happened in Serbia in 2000, the U.S. called it democracy. When it happens in Washington, D.C., not so much. Scenes from the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, as protesters backing President Donald Trump disrupted the joint session of Congress meeting to certify the election of Democrat Joe Biden, looked very much like Belgrade in October 2000. So, it's funny. I've got a couple of more quotes. I've seen stories like this all over, and when we bomb out and destroy a country, whether it's Iraq or Libya, Serbia, and a new leader, the people take to the streets, we cheer that. We say, well, yes, everybody loves democracy and we're spreading it to the world. Well, when the same thing happens here, we don't like it. So let me know what you think about that and some of the other related matters. We've got just this. It's hard to know what to make of the news these days. So I just kind of, give it to you with my spin. We have the mainstream media, which is only owned by 5 or 6 large corporate entities, and they report suspiciously the exact same thing about every single story, much of which is known to be false or just doesn't make any sense or has an obvious spin to it. Then we have the alternative media, which, as I pointed out on the community this weekend, it's a rumor mill. You take your pick. Which half truth do you want to go with? And some of this stuff is patently ridiculous. Other parts of it are intriguing. Some of it turns out to be true. Some of it doesn't. So it's always good to think about these things without going crazy. The other night, oh God, I woke up and my phone, I got all these messages and from the community, in text, emails, people just going off all over the place, I had seen a lot of it, and you don't know what to make of it. But let's take a look at what some of the people in the right side mainstream are saying. This is from Newsmax. Bill Donahoe of the Catholic League. He says, as philosopher Sidney Hook cogently said, There can be no right to revolution in a democracy. You'll notice they all keep using democracy, democracy, which is as worn out as this republic, republic, constitution thing. That is because the faith of everyone who believes in democracy, which has to be foisted on you by a color revolution, everyone who believes in democracy rests on the assumption that all morally legitimate demands can sooner or later be realized through democratic processes without recourse to revolutionary violence. And again, we're talking about the, call it what you will, the protests, the storming, the riot, the insurrection that happened at the Capitol last week. Everybody, both sides of our uniparty and their media has come out and, not uniformly, but close to uniformly said that it's wrong. The people should never, no one should ever take any kind of action that people with bow ties don't approve of. This happening in a city named after a general who rebelled violently against his own king. And it happens in the capital of a country that has been known to use whatever means necessary to affect its policy demands throughout the world. And I don't understand all this talk about the morally legitimate demands in a democracy. Well, democracy is just mob rule. We don't have that, thank God. We also don't have a legitimate republic anymore. If I had to define what kind of government we have a split oligarchy and ochlocracy. We have a ruling elite and a mob in the street. And I didn't mean to make that rhyme. But, one kind of depends on the other, and one does its best to make the other happy. The elites know that they are ridiculously outnumbered, so they try to pacify the people with social media, with television, alcohol, drugs, you name it. And the people respond by constantly voting for and supporting and giving money to these corrupt criminals who hate them. It's honestly a psychotic system, totally devoid of morality or legitimacy. But just things to think about moving forward. And where do you turn? I'm so happy that we have the community now. People are really starting to come over. They're slowly trickling in from Facebook, which if you're still relying, it's okay to be on there if you're looking at, the grandkids, talking to people you went to school with, that's fine. But if you rely on it as a source of information or a place where you can have open discourse, you're naive at best. The same goes with Parler. Parler was set up as the conservative, the bow tie approved conservative alternative to Twitter. And it was a gatekeeping, controlled opposition function from the beginning. That was patently obvious. We're free. Just give us your phone number and some more information, just like Facebook. Now, all of a sudden, Parler is on the hot seat. And, oh well, is my response. They're out of the Apple Store. They're out of the Google Store. And Amazon Web Services has allegedly, I guess, I didn't even check on this today or yesterday, booted them. So they're floating around freely looking for a service provider. The best way to handle that is to build your own. It's hard to do that in America today. The conservatives and the libertarians made a huge mistake several years ago, and I was along with them. We all like, privatization. Capitalism is the way to go. So let's get rid of the federal oversight of the internet and hand it off to a private corporation, because private is always better. Well, when a private company bans you, throws you out, and you have very little recourse, there's really nothing you can do about it. Technically, if FedEx does not like you, they don't have to deliver your package. The post office does. So sometimes, a government service is not necessarily the lesser of two evils. But hey, our community is hosted by WordPress, which is heretofore been very open to freedom. They notably, I know of one website that they canned over unpopular opinions. And that, oddly enough, I think that guy was just tired of the whole game because he never came back anywhere. If you want to be truly free, you've got to, you got to build your own platform, and that's what we've done, and we will keep making improvements. Donald Trump has hinted around. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen on the 20th. The one side has given us a definitive story, and half the country is sticking to that happily. The other side has given us a rumor mill of optimism. In my realistic way of looking at things, I'm not a pessimist or an optimist. I like to, stoically evaluate things. Says that it's all nonsense because, some of it turns out to be true, but when's the big action going to come? Well, we're waiting. It may have already hit by the time this post, but there is a value to hope. So it's good to keep looking at these things and evaluating. But if Trump, becomes private citizen Trump again, he has hinted that he really, or when he does, he's hinting that he really wants to start his own media. Now, is that going to be Trump Twitter, or is it going to be Trump TV? We don't know. Politico took a stab at him, saying that is, and this is a libertarian guy writing, saying that that's basically impossible. The odds are so, despite the fact that he's got 75 million rabid fans, he has no audience and no platform, despite the fact that he's a billionaire. Not buying that at all. If there's anybody who could do it, it's Trump. But all of this, from both sides looks a lot like disinformation, like something you would see in a color revolution operation. Glenn Greenwald, ousted founder of The Intercept, talks about, this is another one from RT you really need to look at, talks about the coming new War on Terror. War on Terror Part 2, and this is honest speculation. The War on Terror was given to us 2 decades ago, this fall, and it sounded good. It sounded patriotic at the time, but it came with a whole lot of strings wound up in things like the Patriot Act, which was drafted well in advance of Operation Northwoods, Tower 7, 9/11. So in this new War on Terror, guess who the terrorists are? It's not some jihadi in a cave in Afghanistan anymore. Joe Biden point blank said it's you thugs who dare to get out and assemble for political reasons, and if there's legitimate thuggery, he's right. I didn't hear him really saying anything about Antifa this summer. In fact, I believe we were told that by Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, that Antifa is not an organization. It's just an ideology. So maybe right-wing thuggery is just an ideology. You can't declare war on it. But Glenn is pretty convinced that they will, if they're given the chance. So something to keep an eye on. And people are not stupid, especially this audience. We've got a story out of California, of all places, where gun sales just continue to soar for whatever reason. And there's a joke that goes around that all of this geopolitical stuff, good, the bad, the ugly, from the right, the left, the center, it may all be driven by the arms and the ammunition manufacturers, because they certainly seem to clean up sales-wise. Hopefully for no reason whatsoever. More craziness. I cut a lot of stories out today. I cut so much out because a lot of this is just the same old stuff. We've got comparisons being made to the current situation, historical comparisons that either don't make sense, or it's a case of be really careful what you're fantasizing about. The one I kept was from the Stanford Advocate. Literally Hitler. That they're very careful in these articles. So we're not saying that Donald Trump is Hitler, but he's Hitler. They talk about how what unfolded last week looks a lot like Hitler's beer hall party, where he fired the pistol, tried to take over the political party, went to prison, and then came out more powerful than ever. For no reason whatsoever did he do this. He just wanted to terrorize the world. And, you thugs, you're playing right along with the 21st century equivalent. In schools, they don't teach history anymore, period. Big Bang, civil rights, Obama, great, get on your devices. They certainly don't teach about, really about either World War or the interwar period. They don't teach about the Weimar Republic, the Great Depression, or anything. So a lot of the younger people, all they hear is Hitler, bad, Trump, bad. You don't want things, whoever you are at the Stanford Advocate, to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just be careful with all this stuff. Not us, them. Well, us too. We might be on the receiving end someday. I like to end these on a happy note, so I've got some changes I want to talk about. Not here, although bigger and better is always coming here with more coffee. I got more coffee stuff to talk about soon. Once we get by next week, the good, the bad, the ugly, we'll have some purpose and some direction, and as I've been saying, a big party. Because no matter how you look at next week, it's a win-win situation for the good guys, because either a whole lot of evil is about to be routed out in spectacular fashion, or we go forward knowing exactly what the deal is. If nothing else, the past 2.5 months have shown the American people that in Washington, there's no difference between these people with an R or a D behind their name. None whatsoever. Because when the people they represent come calling, they put on these ridiculous, plastic bags with respirators, and they run around like rats while their guards, bar the door with guns aimed. Ridiculous. But that's Washington, D.C., that's New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, big cities. 82% of Americans live in some kind of urban or suburban environment. However, I've got a Washington Times story that says that at least half of us want to move back to the country, and with good reason. That's why I keep saying get out of the cities. Do you have problems in smaller cities and small towns? Yeah, just not as much. And, if things really go south in a very small town or just out in the middle of the woods or the fields, there's no targets. They're not going to come looking for, until they go through the mega cities and clean out whatever they want to clean out there. They're not going to come looking for you, in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, or, out in the middle of Nebraska or Alaska or South Georgia, wherever it is. Get out of the cities. Take a look at that story linked up at FP. Also, I've got a video from James Corbett. I tried to put this through directly on his site, but I kept getting pop-up blocked, and my security kept saving me. I link it through LRC, where they have a video, and he's just talking about stop watching propaganda. It's about 18 minutes, worth looking at. He's done a little bit of a series on propaganda in the modern world, and it comes in from all angles. It especially comes in the form of moving pictures. Television, whether it's the news or a soap opera, reality TV, a movie, Netflix, all this stuff they're working some kind of message in at you, and it's really time to think about turning it off. It would be better to be completely ignorant than to be misinformed. Take a look at what he has to say. And along similar lines, the final word of the day is autodidactic, self-taught, self-learning. I've got a great little story from Crisis Magazine, and it's kind of woven in the fabric of our more recent political events. But it's written by a school teacher from Texas, a public school English teacher, who has seen a lot of kids of all different levels, and their struggle to learn, their joy for learning, And one thing he noticed is that there's a distinct class of young people that, you know, don't necessarily do that well academically, but they're very intelligent and they tend to be very successful later in life. So my takeaway from that is unschooled does not necessarily mean unlearned, because you can get quite the education in the world, and you know, the higher IQ you are, the the more you get. But I have known some of the smartest people I've ever known never set foot on a college campus. So don't be afraid to shake things up. You know, if you're young or if you have children, grandchildren, you know, they don't have to go to the Ivy League. They don't have to go to Big State U. You know, a community college, a trade school, great options. You know, some kind of apprenticeship like we used to have in any field, where they can learn and earn on the job. And these people, if they have the knack for learning, it usually comes with reading. They're going to be lifelong learners, and they're the people that 30 years after high school will come off as truly educated compared to the people that just went through the motions to get the piece of paper so they could get the job, but then they got laid off and they flopped around and on and on and on. Don't be afraid to get out of that system. And don't be afraid to come back tomorrow where we'll have more news, and maybe we'll bring back the home improvement stuff. But it's going to be a great time, and it's still going to be a great month. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.